Okay, welcome to the second half of Chapter 9, which is all about factoring. So what that means is we're going to take those problems that we made in the first half, and now we're going to pull them back apart. For example, in the beginning part of this chapter, we had problems like this. And we had to use the foursquare or the FOIL process to find out the answer. So this was a product of binomials. If I FOIL them out, x times x is x squared. The outers make 5x. The inners make 2x. And the last terms make 10. When I put my like terms together, I end up with x squared plus 7x plus 10. And that's a quadratic equation. Okay, it's also a trinomial. Well, now what's going to happen is I'm going to give you this and say what pair of binomials make that thing. So you have to go backwards now. Okay? So that's what we're doing. So before we look at the algebra example here, we're going to start with the number example. What we have to do is we have to think of what multiplies together to get 10. Not 10, sorry, it's 5 in this problem. What multiplies together to get 5 and adds together to get 6. Now, how did I just come up with that? Because 2 and 5 were my magic numbers here, right? What is 2 times 5? 2 times 5 equals 10, which was that last term in my equation. What is 2 plus 5? 2 plus 5 is 7, which was the middle coefficient. Okay, so in this problem, what multiplies and gets 5 and adds together to get 6? What terms can you think of? Well, the only two terms that multiply together to get 5 are 5 and 1. Okay, so 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 plus 1 is 6. And how do we get an x squared? We do x times x. And then it's a plus 5 and a plus 1. And the 5 could have been here, or it could have been the 1 here, and this could have been 5 or 1 there. The reason for that is because 5 plus 1 equals 6, and 5 times 1 equals 5. So the algebra is basically saying here, if I have x plus a number p and x plus another number q, I know that the two numbers added together, p plus q, is going to equal this middle term. That's the adding together term. And the two numbers p times q being multiplied is going to equal the c. And that's what we're just practicing today. What are the two magic numbers? It's like solving a puzzle. Okay? All right, so we have x squared plus 10x plus 16. We need to find two positive factors of 16, whose sum is 10. Now, why did I say they have to be positive? Because that's a positive number right there, and they have to add to a positive number. So I know my factors have to be positive. So my factors of 16, I could have 16 times 1, 8 times 2, or 4 times 4. Now I'm going to add them together, and which one equals the magic number, which is 10. So 16 plus 1 is 17, so it's not that choice. 8 plus 2 is 10. Bingo. 4 plus 4, just to show you it doesn't work, is 8. So my factors are 2 and 8. Those are the magic ones. They have a sum of 10, and they multiply together to get 16. So the binomials that make this guy up are x plus 8 and x plus 2, and it could have been written in the other order. So let's check it. We're going to FOIL it out. X times x is x squared plus 2x plus 8x plus 16. Is that what I started off with? X squared plus 10x plus 16. That is it. Okay. Now, before we go to the next page, I'm going to show you how to use that foursquare that we were using before to factor. It's actually more work than the process we just did for these easy ones, but later when I give you a coefficient other than 1 in front of x, right now it's a 1, when I give you a coefficient that's a different number, you are going to love this 4-square method. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to pretend we didn't know that this was the answer here. We're going to just take this original problem and we're going to plug it into our 4-square. The first term always goes in the top left corner, and the last term always goes in the bottom right. And then these two terms are those magic numbers that multiply to 16 and add to 10x. Okay? So, if I wanted to do that, I would say 8 and 2. But they have to get added together to equal 10x, so they have to put the x's on there. 2x and 8x. Those are my magic numbers. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of each column and each row. So, looking at this column, what is the greatest common factor? There's an x squared and there's an 8x. So an x is the greatest common factor in this column. In this column, 2x and 16, 2 is the greatest common factor. In this column, x squared and 2x, x is the greatest common factor. And in this column, 8x and 16, 8 is the greatest common factor. What are my two binomial factors? There they are, x plus 2 and x plus 8. That's what we just got right there. So I know the 4-square process is actually probably more work for you right now, but I want to get it going in your mind because we are going to love this process later. I'm going to do it a couple more times in the future problems. All right, example 2 is kind of like example 1, but what you'll notice is that there's a minus sign in front here. Now, what two kind of numbers multiply together and are positive, but when I add them, they end up being negative? The answer is a negative number. So a negative number times a negative number equals a, positive number, right? But a negative number plus a negative number is still a negative number. You're spending money, spending more money, now you're in the hole. So when I have a positive number here and a negative in front of the b term, I know I'm going to have two negative numbers. So because b is negative and c is positive, p and q, those factors, must both be negative. So now we need to think of factors of 6. So I have 1 and 6, but they have to be negative. So it's either -1 and -6 or -2 and -3. And then we'll add them together. So -1 plus -6 is -7. I need -5, so that's not it. -2 and -3, they multiply together, or they add together, sorry, to equal -5. So that's the magic thing. So it becomes a minus 2 and a minus 3. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. Okay, the third example, the b term is positive and the c term is negative. So what would happen there? One of the factors must be what? Negative. And then the bigger guy's got to be positive to have a positive answer here. So it says because c is negative, p and q must have different signs. They must have different signs. So what are my factors of -10? Well, I can have -10 times +1, 10 times -1, -5 times +2, or 5 times -2. And then we're going to add them up and see which one is the magic number 3. So -10 plus 1 is -9. 10 plus -1 is +9. There's -3. Oh, it's so close. But this is my right one, right? +3. So my factors are 5 and -2. So I have y plus 5 times y minus 2. Okay, at this point, you can go ahead and pause the video and try all of the numbers 1 through 6 and see if you have them. The only work that I'm going to show for them is I do this. I say what multiplies to 12 and adds to 7. There's my work that I do off to the side, and I would think about the factors in my head. 1 and 12, no. 2 and 6, no. 3 and 4, ding, 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 ding. Ooh, this should be a squared here, right? So should this guy. Goodness. Typos in the notes. Okay, so squared and squared, so then we would have x plus 3 and x plus 4. That's all I need to show for work, okay? So go ahead, pause the notes, and then come back and see if you're right. And I'm just looking ahead. I fixed that one. There's a square there, but I didn't notice the mistake on the previous page there. Okay. All right, let's see how you did. We did this one together, x plus 3 and x plus 4. What multiplies to 8 adds to 9? 8 and 1. Over here, x plus 3, x plus 9. Now it gets a little trickier, so I showed more work. What multiplies to a positive 20 but adds to negative 9? So it's negative 5 and negative 4. They add to negative 9. All right, y plus 7, y minus 3. And the 7's got to be the positive because 4 was a positive, so the bigger number is positive in that case. Same over here, multiplies to negative 24 but adds to 2. It's a positive 6 and a negative 4. Okay? So I'm going to just take this one over here, and let's do the four square process on this. Even if you're getting the other method, I just want to start implanting this into your brain so life is much easier in your future. So which one goes in the top left? This first term of y squared. Bottom right is the negative 21. So then in your mind, you say what multiplies to negative 21 and adds to positive 4. And you would say 7 and negative 3. And it's going to have the y term now, so when I add them on, they equaled that middle term of the y. So it would be 7y and negative 3y. Okay? You could have put them in the other spaces as well. Now factor out the greatest common factor. So a y is a common factor in this column. 7 is a common factor in this column. In this row, y is the common factor. And then over here, we have a negative touching the edge. So here's kind of my edges where I'm factoring them out. I can never have a negative number touching. So there's no negative there, no problem, right? Here, it's okay in this column because this y squared term is positive. This guy's not touching this column. Same with this. It's a negative 21, but this 7 was positive, so it's okay. When there's a negative number touching the part where you're factoring it out, you have to take it out. So a negative 3 is in both of those, and it comes out. And that's how I get y plus 7 and y minus 3 as my two factors using the four square process. Okay, so let's look at example 4. We're going to ignore this for a second. We'll come back to this here in a minute. So the problem with this one, first of all, it says to solve. So notice we have an equal sign. You may remember that to find the solutions, we have to be equal to 0. So the very first thing we need to do is subtract 18 to both sides. So there I am subtracting 18. And now I'm going to do my process of what multiplies to negative 18 and adds to 7. So 1 and 18, no. 2 and 9, oh, that's going to be it. So which one do I want to be the bigger? The 9, because it's a positive 7. So it's x plus 9, x minus 2. And now we're back to the beginning part of this unit where we say one of these two has to be 0. So either x plus 9 is 0 or x minus 2 is 0. Solve for x. X equals negative 9 or x equals 2. So the solutions are 2 and negative 9, or the other order is fine as well. Those are also called the roots, remember. So this is basically a review of last unit from here down. So we're adding the factor step in. So go ahead and do number 7. Pause the video, see how you did. Okay, breaking it down, you should have subtracted 13. And then we have what multiplies to negative 13 and adds to negative 1. So think about that in your brain. What's that going to be? I got my S's. And now it ends up being a negative, right? So it's minus 13, positive 1. Then set them both equal to 0 and solve. So S is a positive 13 or S is negative 1. So the solutions are negative 1, and 13. All right, that's the end of your notes. Go ahead and continue on to the 9-5 assignment.